everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my 2018 reading wrap-up. So we're going to go back to looking at all my stats. If you like stats, this is the video for you. Like twice a year I do a video like this, and it's like the time where we just go through all my reading, kind of the genre I read the most, how many pages per book usually. All the good stuff is happening now. And I'm also looking back at my reading goals and looking at if I achieved them. The fact that I had to look back at some of my goals because I couldn't remember them gives you a little bit of an idea here. And then we try to change stuff in the future. Maybe. We'll see. So let's go through them. First thing was my Goodreads goal. My challenge had put like 100. Actually, I started at 50 because I was reading bigger books this year and I was scared I was going to hit 100. And I did read 102. I was hoping I was going to be able to finish the book I'm currently reading, but I haven't been able to because holidays and all of these videos. The series has been so much fun. I hope you've been enjoying it. I'm struggling to finish it because, to be completely honest, I am not feeling good right now. And one of the past videos too, I have like electrolyte drinks right here because my tummy is a big mess. So yeah, but we're doing this, and yeah, didn't finish the book, but 102, that is amazing. And the next stat, which I'll put them on the screen, was the amount of pages per book that I read, and I believe it's 383 per page, per book. And last year was 367, and my goal was to do better, and we did it. We did it. Not by much, but I mean, if you're reading 100 books, it doesn't take that much to reduce the average. Like, you read one short book and it's like, ugh. So I think I did great. I totally did it. Very happy about it. I'm gonna go per graph instead of going back and forth between some of the info I want to say. So first graph is going to be my type of genre of books. And I feel like people always wonder like whose YouTuber is like more fantasy sci-fi or more contemporary or more this or more that. And I kind of feel like I'm kind of a mix because I do say that I'm more fantasy sci-fi, which you will see I am, but I'm pretty diverse still. So let's do the graph. You can see 50% of my reading, exactly-ish, is fantasy sci-fi when you put them together. And then that half is 50% fantasy sci-fi this year. So 25% of my reading is fantasy, 25% of my reading is sci-fi. That is pretty crazy. I'm totally happy with it. I've been reading more and more sci-fi. Like, I read some last year, but I read even more this year, and I feel like I'm going to continue to do so. I'm very much into sci-fi. I don't feel like it's the most popular genre at all on BookTube, but I love it. I even did this year a beginner's guide to sci-fi, so if you're like, sci-fi is intimidating, I don't want to go full-on alien spaceship with weird, long, science-y names, I recommend that video because I recommend the books like, oh, if you usually like contemporary, go for this one. If you usually like mysteries, go for this one. That type of video, it's very, very useful, kind of like this, try that type of thing. And then my next bigger category, I tend to group horror, mystery, thriller. In my head, they're all pretty much the same, even though I know some people don't put horror in there. It's all good. 21 books, which makes around 21% of my reading was for that, which is pretty high actually. I didn't think I had read that many. I think this year the difference is instead of reading it all during the fall, I kind of spread it. It's also the fact that most of them sucked and like hard. Not a good reading years for that genre at all. The only good ones would have been like Sharp Object and like All the Missing Girls. They're like the only ones I can think of right now that weren't horrible. So yeah, it seemed like a high number, but nah. I did read 14 nonfiction because one of my goals this year, I can't speak today. It's been rough. I've been speaking French to a lot of people during the holidays and my English is like bleh. 14 nonfiction, like I was saying, and more of them were science related. Last year, I had read 0 science related one, and I felt like that person that's like, oh yeah, I like to read, but then they never read ever. And I was like that with science books. But finally, I think I read like 4 or 5 of them, at least, actually. So, very happy about that number. I am hoping I'm going to do that again next year. We'll see that in a second, my reading goals for 2019. But we did it, 14%. That's great. That's more than expected. Then it's like 4%/4 books that were classics. I feel like I read a bunch of like classic sci-fi or classic that. So I didn't put them in the classic category because, you know, so I probably read a bit more than that, but I think 4% is still pretty good considering I had no goals for that. And then I believe this is the last category, which is historical fiction, which is kind of crazy because not my usual genre, but I still read 3, so we'll take it. Age group. Oh, I feel like this is the category that brings the most salt on the internet. There's people bashing every booktuber for being a 20-year-old female that likes makeup and YA books. Why does everyone has to bash anything that is feminine? Like, we're allowed to have hobbies. But that's a different story. And I will not go into it because, again, my belly is not ready for all that salt. With that said, against what some people say, I do like YA. I have nothing against YA. And 23% of my reading this year was YA. So I think that's pretty good. I've only read 1 middle grade by accident. And 78 books that I read / 76% of the books that I read were considered adult. I'm okay with it. Last year I read pretty much 50-50, which I thought was great, but I had a pretty bad experience with a lot of contemporary ones that I read during the summer. I listened to a bunch of them during the summer. And they were all so that I kind of got a bit sick of it. So this year I was a bit more careful. I was less tempted, to be honest, because again, a few that I picked, like I'm thinking like The Cruel Prince, for example, and Warcross, they were all pretty bad. So I kind of just didn't feel like reading any. And yeah, just none of them really appealed to me, and the few that I did pick were kind of bad. So kind of left me not wanting to read more. Next year I'll still want to read some. You know what? I'm going to group my goals for next year at the same time because otherwise I'll forget. So yes, next year I still want to keep it around 50-50. I'm still okay with 75-25. That's perfectly fine. I'm not too strict. I just don't want this channel to become 0% YA because I feel like people like to put YouTubers in general in certain categories. Like, okay, you read fantasy sci-fi, you read adult books, and that's just not me. So you'll see actually for everything, I'm kind of a mix of everything. So I'm okay with that. One of my big goals this year was to read bigger books, like I was mentioning, books that are over 500 pages. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it. But I did my whole wrap up. And my ultimate goal was to read 10 or try to do 1 a month. I did read 8, so that did help my goal to read more than last year. And I ended up reading 21 books that were over 500 pages. That's crazy. I'm very happy about it. I do feel like it slowed down my reading at times because I was like spending so much time on bigger books. Like The Stand is like 1,300 pages, for example. Like that took forever to go through. But I do feel like I've improved my fear of big books. I enjoyed, again, in my free time, a bunch of them that weren't part of my reading challenge. And I read them, enjoyed them. And just my TBR for January, there's a bunch of bigger books too. So we seem to be doing pretty good there. You're going to see in the stats overall that I did read quite a few short books because most of the books that I did read were between 300 and 399 pages. And then after that, it's 200, 299. And I went back to look because I was scared that one of my fear would be that, oh, by reading bigger books, I'll feel the need to read shorter ones to compensate so I can hit my 100, books goal for Goodreads. And that's not what I wanted to do. And I looked back and I realized a bunch of those books are, even the shorter ones, are classic sci-fi. They just tend to be shorter. Like you can see them here. They're not big. They're all like 200 and something pages. And I read even Solaris this year, which again, it's a classic sci-fi. It's fairly short. It's like just 200 pages. So it just made sense. It wasn't any book that I picked up because I wanted to have a quick book just to inflate my numbers. Which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, if that's what you want to do. It wasn't what I was planning. And then 2 of those books were over 1,000 pages, which those were monsters, but totally worth it. So 102 books, and within all of those books, I ended up reading 39,086 pages. That's pretty darn crazy. Very happy with it. And then if we look at my shortest and longest book, because Goodreads give us all those wonderful stats. I'll link my Goodreads down below if you want to check it out. It's Books with Emily Fox. You can easily Google me and follow me. That way you can see what I'm currently reading. And I am planning on doing a book club, which again, I'll talk about in a bit, but you'll be able to join from there as soon as I open it because we were trying to find a name. So my shortest book of the year was Dear Hija Willie, or Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And can I just say first off again, even though I've said it in the past, but man, she's such an amazing woman. I just recently watched another interview, whatever she was giving, and She's probably the most charismatic person ever. She's just wonderful. Did enjoy that one. And then the biggest book that I read this year was The Stand by Stephen King, once again, because again, actually I have it here. That is a crazy big book. But it was a floppy version. They're like my favorite. They're just the best. They're very comfortable to read. And we all know at this point I hate hardcovers. So. But yeah, that was my biggest book of the year, and it's popular for a reason. It was good. The most popular book that I've read this year was Animal Farm by George Orwell. And it was my first time reading it. I didn't have to read it in high school. I feel like everyone had. It's probably why it's the most popular one, like the one that has been reviewed the most. Like almost 2.5 million people reviewed it on Goodreads. And I enjoyed it more than I expected. It was kind of easy to read. It was kind of hard emotionally though. And I'm not sure I understood everything, because obviously when you're in class you can get all the, you know, historical context and everything. But I think it's something I will enjoy rereading later on in life too. But I totally recommend it. I can't say it's my new favorite book of all time, but it was a good read for sure. And then the least popular book that I've read, there's only like 1,000 people that did read it on Goodreads, and it is The Lost Child of Lynchford by Paul Cornell. This is the second book in a series, and they're all very, very short books, and I got rid of them because the second book was bad, so not surprised. I always give myself the goal of reading 50-50 female-male author, because I've realized that a lot of the really popular sci-fi and fantasy books that I see everywhere are written by men, and I think it gets frustrating to not get any female authors in there too. With that said, without actually trying that hard, I read 50-50 every year. Last year I think it was about like pretty much exactly 50-50, and this year I read 58% male, 52% female. So it's like 49 books written by men, 53 by women. And I didn't try that hard, and I do still think that as far as like fantasy and sci-fi, I don't read enough female authors, but I have a bunch for next year that I'm like not trying to get into, that I have and want to read. So yeah, I'm working on that, but I'm happy with the results. That's definitely something I'm comfortable with. I feel like sometimes people would be surprised with those stats. Like I look back at my stuff and I'm like, huh, I did good, or didn't do too good. So I definitely recommend doing your own stats. Now let's go to my rating stats. So Goodreads was telling me that on average it was 3.3, and even in my own stats that's what it is. So yeah, okay, giving 3.3 stars on average seems low, and I don't disagree. With that said, I'll include actually I'll put it on my face because that thing is really huge, but you're going to be able to notice that most of the books that I've read were 3 stars. And I understand that. I do feel like I've become more critical in my reading, but I do feel like I had a pretty meh year overall. A lot of books that I was interested in reading ended up being disappointments, and that's fine, it happens. Like, I don't feel like I had a horrible read either, because you're gonna be able to notice that quite a few of my books were 4 stars or 5 stars, and again, it was pretty good. Those books were great. I did have more 2 and 1 stars than last year, but I think I'm less shy about my opinion. I stand with what I said. Those books were not great. And I just think I was unlucky with those. Like, it wasn't like all books are shitty. It's just those books are shitty. And yeah, 3.3 sounds low, but when I look back at my year, I don't think it was that bad. I did notice, you're gonna notice actually when we go month by month, the months I was having like great reading months, I kept reading a bunch of books, my ratings were higher, just because when I read good books, I tend to read more because I'm like excited. So yeah, I don't think I did those last year, but I'm very excited about these ones because I did a video complaining about my library, and I've been very vocal about how much it sucks. With that said, I don't really hate my library. I just hate waiting and having like new books waiting 6 months for them. And I understand libraries are doing their best, and that's okay. I mean, I support it. You're going to see that. And I had to pay in July like $80 to renew it. So I have every intention of using that card like as much as I can. And I've been doing pretty good. As far as if I board the book or something, 52 books, so 51% of the books that I've read were my own, so books that I bought either new or used, usually. And then, are you ready for this? 47%. That's crazy. That means 48 books that I've read this year were from my library, either audiobooks, you'll see that in a second, or ebooks. But that's awesome. I'm absolutely using it. It's almost 50%, so really, I complain about my library, but I'm allowed to because I use it. Very happy with that result. I totally recommend and support everyone wanting to use their libraries. absolutely do that. Use it in a way that works for you. Actually, let me show the other stats and then I'll talk about it a bit more, because I have then the format of the books that I've read. So physical, 45% of the books that I've read were physical books, 34% were audiobooks, and then 21% were ebooks. And this is kind of what happens here. I don't use my library for physical books, and that's because it's too much trouble to go and get them. It's not like on my way or anything. So I tend to use my library through Libby. If you don't use Libby, you're missing out. It's like Overdrive 2.0. It's super user-friendly. You can put the waiting list, put your name on the waiting list for the books you're interested in, and then you can like put it on hold. Like if you can't, you know, when you're getting like all the book at the same time, you can prevent that by like choosing by what day you want to get them. That way nobody has to wait after you while you're not reading all the books and stuff like that. It's much better. So yeah, Libby, awesome. That's where I get my audiobooks and then ebooks through my library through that app. And yeah, 34%. I do want to mention though that sometimes I would read a physical book and then go back and forth between the audiobooks. I tend to do that if I can from my library, because sometimes I can't read a physical book but I really want to continue. And when I did that, I would put it library and I would put it audiobook. So it may have inflated the numbers a tiny bit, but I still considered that I was testing the audiobooks and I was testing my library, like using it. So that's that. But yeah, I've used them so much, like I can complain as much as I want from about my library now. But I highly recommend you check out your library, support them, even their sales, because I'm always raving about my library sale. It's like 3 books for $1. You want that in your life. So yeah, I'm very happy about that. That's like my favorite stat, I think, this year. Now let's go through the year that the books that I've read were published in. You're gonna notice again, I mix it up. I try to keep up with what's new to let you know if it's worth the read or not. I try to also read some more popular ones in the last couple of years and then still, you know, go through older stuff that might be less mentioned, but that might still be worth it. I'm gonna go in percent because it's pretty much exactly since I read 102 books. So 22% of the books that I've read were published this year. I think that's pretty good to try and keep up without breaking the bank. I tend to, like I said, either use my library, which you tend to have to wait a long time to read a new book, or sometimes I'll buy one. But yeah, I've been on a tighter budget, but with the money I'm making with BookTube, basically what I'm doing is reinvesting it on the channel. So I will try and keep up whenever I can to try and keep up with the books that we all want to read this year. Very happy with that number. We'll try to keep that up for next year. And then 25% of the books that I've read were published either in 2016 or 17, which again, pretty recent, just, you know, a little late. And then 25% of my reading was between 2011 and 2015, so again, still fairly recent. But then there's still 14% of the books that I read that were published before 2000. So that's actually pretty good, I think. That's probably because I read a bunch of like classic sci-fi and then a few classics. So I'm, again, happy with that number. It's very, very like mixed. My genre, and then my author, my the age group, and then the year published. I'm very happy, very, very happy. So the one thing I'm doing differently in this video, sadly, I will not be doing the pals that I've done in the last years, which I know I'm so sad about it, but I'm like feeling so unwell. I cannot lift books at all. So unfortunately, I won't do it this year. I will be doing it next year and definitely recommend checking out the past years. It's so fun. But I'm still gonna go through the stats of when I was reading the most and everything. So from the graph that I will be inserting, you can see that I read most of the books in March, April, May. I was just on a roll, and as I was saying, I tend to just read more when all the books I pick up are good. It's just like so motivating, and a lot less in the months that I keep picking up books that are not great because I don't feel like reading if I have to read a bad book, or if I've just read 2 bad books, I don't want to pick another one because I feel like it's also going to be bad. So those were my 3 strong months for sure. And before that and after that, I feel like I had like kind of slumpy-ish months, but I kept reading some of my favorite books in those months. So it was great for that. I read so much in May, like 18 books. It was just ridiculous. So for 2019, overall, I'm giving myself a thumbs up. I think I did fairly good with my challenges and everything. I don't feel like I picked up all books I ended up loving, but you know, it happens. It can't always be sunshine and rainbows, and I get to have fun in my disappointing and worst books that I've read that year. With that said, we're hoping 2019 can be more positive. And I feel like just January, my TBR is looking so good that I'm very excited. Clearly, that's the word. I do want to say I did fail at finishing more series. I did finish some, but it was mostly series that I had started that year too. And on a positive side though, I didn't start that many series. So I guess it's kind of okay, but not really for that challenge. But I did read more nonfiction, so I did that at least. Now 2019. So as I was mentioning, I am planning on doing a book club on Goodreads, so definitely follow me on there, Books with Emily Fox, like I was saying. The book club, I'm not 100% sure yet what the name will be. I will announce it in future videos and on Goodreads, so you're going to be able to see and just add add yourself to the group. Right now, people are voting on the community tabs. You can go ahead and do that. One more that has been like added kind of comment section was Foxhole, so let me know if that's something you prefer. Although I'm not sure how comfortable I am saying that all the time because it kind of sounds like puns and jokes can be made so easily. There was also just Fox Book Club or Reading with Emily Fox, or my favorite, a book club has no name because I'm so bad at finding a name. You decide, again, feel free to comment here or just vote in the community tab. We'll choose the most popular one soon, and then we will read together my big books, and then I will probably add in that book club also whenever I do like any challenge, any books that I want to do like a buddy read with everyone. So this year I'm not giving myself any percentage I would like to read of like nonfiction, classic or anything. I feel like I have enough challenges with my big book challenge, which I'll link, and then my top 19 books that I want to read in 2019, which again another video that I will link. So I think I'm going to be busy enough. I still want to utilize my library as much as possible, but yeah, I have no goal to try and read more ebooks. I feel like I read quite a bit this year, 21, but yeah, no specific goals for that either. I do want to try to do more readathon. It was one of my goals last year and I failed hard. I was so busy. So I am planning on doing more. I think it will mostly become me doing reading vlogs, which I think it's easier because I choose, you know, what time and stuff I can do them, and then I can pre-film them and post them when it's convenient. So I will be doing reading vlogs, which actually, if you don't know, I started a new series just like pretty much now, but this year, of me reading really popular YA and or adult books. And then I do reading vlogs with them. The only thing is that my vlogging camera is dead at the moment, so I kind of have to just film them like this. So let me know if that's something that bothers you or not, because if it doesn't bother you, I can start in January. If not, I will have to wait until I have time to actually get it repaired. I'm pretty sure just part of my memory card got stuck in there. My memory cards keep exploding on me. I don't know how to do it. They're just so flimsy, but yeah, let me know, because I do want to do more reading vlogs. I think it's going to be easier than just doing readathons, although I will probably try and do some. As far as uploading, okay, I want your opinion, but I want to try to be more consistent, because if I look back at the year, some months, I mean, December doesn't count because it's always like this, but like some months I'll post like 7 videos and then the next month I'll post like 1 or 3. It's not enough. I want to try to be more consistent, so I'm gonna give myself like a day, let's say like Saturdays. Every Saturday I upload, except like end beginning of the month, I will post the closest to the end and beginning of the month for my TBR and my wrap up, but every other time it's going to be on Saturdays. Does that make sense? Maybe. Let me know how you feel about it. I feel like it would be a bit more consistent, not fully again because of that, but Saturdays could be days that I upload. I want to try to upload more, again, reading vlogs. I'm going to do more tags, and I'm going to try to do some, although I'll explain in a second, more favorites, like favorite tropes that I love, or favorite like fantasy, sci-fi and everything. Again, I'm trying to wait until I read enough in each categories. It's so hard to post a video like that, because then when you post it, people assume that this is it and they'll try to comment, but what about that one? And what about that one? And if you don't name the most famous ones, people get mad and everything. And I just want, for my own sanity, to try and wait a little bit more. But yeah, I'm hoping to either do First Contact with Aliens or Post-Apocalyptics, probably something like that. But yeah, this year I did do my favorite romance books, which was funny because it's my least favorite genre, but sometimes, you know, it happens. And it was kind of easy because I wasn't waiting to read more, you know? So yeah, some of those will be coming, and I am planning on doing, like I said, more book tags. Did I say it? I find they're fun, but I was waiting until I had read enough books that it wouldn't be repetitive, because I find they become very boring very quickly if you're mentioning the same like 5 books every single time, but I will do more. I totally want to continue to mix, you know, author, gender, the genres that I read, the age group, and the time they were published. I think I'm doing great with that. Definitely continuing that. I'm also going to be doing more videos that are like kind of discussion, maybe more live ones if that's something you are into. I feel like everyone loved the other one, but we'll see. Maybe I'll do like live like book tags, or a specific discussion, but we will have to choose the discussion topic beforehand because otherwise it just stretches. Last time it lasted 2 hours and it's way too crazy all over the place, so I'll try to have them more structured. I'm definitely open to do more if you are into it. And overall, I just want to continue having a lot of fun. I feel like sometimes when I keep reading bad books and I feel forced to try and like read the most famous books and everything, it kind of gets so that's why I want to just keep it happy and fun. And I think January, again, my TBR, seems like I'm going in that direction. So again, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm really sorry about not doing the piles of books, but again, I'm not feeling well and I'm hoping to post this as soon as possible too. Things have been like very crazy. I've uploaded 15 videos in December and like most of these were in the last 2 weeks. It was like one a day. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I will link down below the bunch of the videos that I mentioned. I'll put some on the screen. Don't forget to subscribe because you don't want to miss any future videos, and don't forget also to follow me on Goodreads so that way we can chat over there, and even Twitter's because I make you vote very often on Twitter. So Beauty with Emily, because I have a beauty channel, Beauty with Emily Fox. Originally that was what my Twitter was for, but book people are very much welcome. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.